Today, we're going to be going over 39 tips and tricks that are going to change the way you play Helldivers 2. These Helldivers 2 tips and tricks range from doing secret gun features, to a new way to extract, to even figuring out how to reload faster than you typically would. And if that's not enough, I'm also going to show you how to move while calling in a stratagem. I'm going to try and keep this as short, sweet, and to the point as possible, but before I get into it, I want to ask you, if this video helps, please hit the like button. If you're watching this video later, check out the ratio of likes to views. If this video has a decent number of views, but not really too many likes, that probably means this is not a good video and you shouldn't waste your time watching it. I try to be honest, I try to make videos that help, but sometimes I do miss. So yeah, let's get into the video. To kick things off, let's talk about using stratagems on the move. A lot of you probably knew this, but if you didn't, stratagems are locked to your WASD keys when you first get the game. If you switch those to any other keys, I like to use the arrow keys, you can now move while calling in a stratagem. A lot of you probably didn't know that, but I want to get that out of the way because I see a lot of new players get into the game, they stop to call in something and they die because that's just how Helldivers works. This is going to make that a whole lot less likely to happen. Now let's get into one that a lot of you probably don't know, and this would be a new way to extract. So if it comes time to extract and one of your teammates dies, or maybe even all three of your teammates die, or all four of you die, there's a really easy way to extract. Wait for the ship to land, throw in the reinforcements beacon. When those reinforcements are landing, have them land right inside of the ship. What's going to happen is when they go to get out of their pod, they're going to magically appear in the ship, and bing, bang, boom, you don't need to do anything. They just extract with you. Also, this should serve as a warning for those of you who aren't too smart. If you do land your pod right inside of the ship, it's going to automatically kick off that extraction timer. So if you're waiting for teammates, make sure you don't do that because you might be leaving your teammates stranded. Now it's time to play rapid fire tips. We're going to be going over a few tips rapid fire because these are pretty simple ones. So first off, if you want to see all the extra features your gun has, instead of hitting R to reload, hold R down. It's going to give you a nice little menu that shows you a bunch of features that your gun has. A lot of times you can switch a gun from a full automatic to semi-automatic and turn a flashlight on permanently. These are nice things to have. Some guns also have some special features, so it's definitely worth playing around with. In addition to this, if you want to switch shoulders of your gun, usually one of your mouse buttons is going to do that. If you click the middle mouse button, that's going to change you from third person to first person. This means you can actually use the reticles, spectacles, whatever you want to call them, on your gun. I think it's reticles. You can use those on your gun to actually aim. Your accuracy doesn't actually improve because you're not laying down. Laying prone means your accuracy improves, by the way. But it doesn't actually improve. It just makes it a lot easier for you to actually aim. You physically, not your in-game character, if that makes any sense. Also, if your teammate's running low on health, they're in the red, you can run up to them and use your stim. You run up to your teammate, you press E, and you're going to automatically use a stim on that teammate. Another quick one when it comes to gathering resources, if you're running past the extraction point, go to the extraction point, hold X, and now you're going to be able to drop all those resources that you've collected. This means if you die, you don't need to worry about picking them up before you extract. You go to the extraction point, you can pick up everything that you dropped there. And last but not least, when it comes to keys that you should be using, there is Q. That's what's going to be used to ping things. So if you're looking to communicate with your team without actually using your microphone, which you'd think that I'd be one of those people who'd be completely against, but no, I'm actually pretty antisocial too, despite the YouTube channel. So yeah, Q is a great way to communicate while being antisocial. And real quickly, while we're here and just going over quick tips, go into the settings, change your field of view all the way up. That's going to make it a lot better because you can see more. Also, that whole screen shake thing, turn that off. That's going to make it a little bit easier to aim. And while we're here, just turn off that whole screen shaking thing because it makes things a lot harder. Unless you like the aesthetics of it, because let's be honest, this game isn't about dominating the enemy, it's about spreading democracy and doing it in a beautiful fashion. Now let's talk about how to take on certain enemies. When it comes to automatons, you typically want to aim for the red, which is typically going to be their face. Orange ports also works really well on bots. Those are the two things you basically want to aim for, red and orange. All of the enemies that you face can be delimbed. This is really cool because what it means is on a strider, you can pick off the guns, effectively making it a pretty useless walker. And in addition to that, if you've got something like a charger, all you need to do is aim at the limbs. That's going to make things a lot easier, and it's going to make the charger a little bit less chargy. Also for dropships, aim at the engines. All you got to do is hit one engine with one rocket. You take the whole ship down. It's a really easy way to get a bunch of kills. And if the dropship has already made its drop, make sure you still target that engine, because they can come down on top of enemies, blow up and kill all of those enemies, or they can fall down and block the path of enemies, meaning that they can't even reach you. So yeah, always take out the dropships if you have a rocket and you are able to. It will really save you a lot of time in the future, and by in the future I mean like 30 seconds from when you do it, because those enemies are coming in fast. And continuing on this theme of just using the environment or creating an environment that's very detrimental to your enemies, if a group of enemies is chasing you, you can use a stun grenade, but if you don't have a stun grenade, you can just run through something that's going to slow them down. You can dive through something, that's going to mean that you transverse it a little bit faster. The enemies, however, will not die because they're pretty much brain dead. So yeah, they're going to run straight through some sort of hazard, so if you can get them to do that, you can really slow the enemies down, get the jump on them, and then all you've got to do is drop the smoke and disengage. This is Helldivers 2. The goal isn't to kill everything in sight. The goal is to spread democracy, and we do that by completing missions. It doesn't matter how many bots, bugs, or people you kill. All that matters is you extract successfully after completing your mission. And let's be honest, nobody really cares if you extract. All you've got to do is complete the mission. Because yeah, you still get the mission completed thing even if you don't extract, because Helldivers are expendable. Also, while we're talking about environments and playstyles, stealth is a viable playstyle. It's better to do it on your own, because if you do it with a team, let's be honest, the team's probably going to F it up. And let's be honest, if I'm on your team, I'm going to be the one effing it up. Also, when it comes to stealth, you can flank enemy strongholds, get the jump on the enemies, and hopefully kill them all before they get off a call for help. If enemies don't get off a call for help, that ambush is successful, and you pretty much don't have to deal with dropships or extra bugs or anything like that. You can just kill the enemies and move on. Now, if you run into a container after killing all these enemies, did you know you can blow those containers open and find nice loot inside? Also, if you did happen to die while you're looking for that nice loot, your drop pod can be used to kill enemies. That's a really good way to come into the fight with a little bit of an oomph, or drop right into battle and become completely exterminated because you did something stupid. And yes, I've done that many times. Also, when it comes to being bad and disengaging the enemy, if you're running away and you have a secondary gun or a gun that you can hold in one hand, you can fire that gun backwards while running away. A lot of guns like a shotgun, you can't do that. You got to turn completely to use it. Whereas if you've got a one-handed gun, you can just turn around and shoot it while you're running. This is really nice because I'm not good at the game. I tend to spend a lot of my time running with my butt facing the enemy, and this is a nice way that I can still feel like I contributed, even if I don't have explosive diarrhea. Now let's talk about reloading, because this is one that a lot of people probably don't know. In Helldivers, if you reload a completely empty magazine, in most guns, you're going to have to cock the gun, put a sort of bullet in the chamber. If you reload a gun that has one bullet in it, that animation does not play. This means reloading a gun with one bullet is actually a good bit faster than reloading a gun that is completely empty. Whether or not you're going to remember this in the middle of a firefight, it remains to be seen. But for those of you who are looking to play suicide missions and still succeed, this is actually a really good tip, because yeah, it just helps. It just helps. Also, another thing that helps is using the minimap. You can actually use that to see enemies. And a fun fact, side missions can actually be used to give you advantages. The radar, for example, will reveal the whole map once you've taken that radar tower. And the SEAF artillery will allow you to call in strikes based on what ammunition you loaded into it. So yeah, those are two examples of advantages that you can get for secondary objectives. Honestly, the radar tower, that should be one of the first things you target when you drop into a mission that has a radar tower, because unlocking that minimap is super powerful. The artillery is also pretty good, like no hate on that, but yeah, the radar is probably one of the most powerful side missions that you can do, so drop right in by that radar tower and take it out. Also, as long as we're talking about things to drop in and stuff like that, if you're going to drop in, make sure you take a rocket launcher, something like that with you that can take on big enemies. Also, it's good to take on something that can take on armor, because that's really helpful. Another thing that's good to have is airstrikes, because those are always useful if you want to take out a mission objective without actually going in there. Maybe you're lazy, maybe you're weak, I don't know, and I don't care. Now, when it comes to other things that you should be doing, if you're dropping in, make sure you actually do use your boosters. A lot of you watching this probably know that, but there's a lot of new players I've seen just dropping in without boosters, and that's just a huge loss in my opinion. You might as well use it. Now, when it comes to jumping in, diving in, or anything like that, diving does reduce explosive damage. Explosive damage is something that you're probably going to be taking a lot of. There's a new war bond that makes it a lot easier for your teammates to make you go boom, but there's a lot of environmental aspects that can also make you go boom. Obviously, there's explosive barrels. Some of them you can pick up and throw, which is really nice because you can position them in a way that they'll blow up on a big herd of enemies. But in addition to that, a lot of the maps have hell bombs randomly scattered throughout them. As you're traversing the terrain, you're going to run into these hell bombs. Sometimes they're guarded by hordes of enemies. Now, if you shoot those hell bombs, they go boom. So, yeah, what do you want to do? Make a big explosion in the desert or do absolutely nothing? Let's be honest, if you're part of the US military or just American in general, making things go boom is a part of your blood. So, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, just do it, bitch. And right now, we're starting to wind things down, but I still do have a few random tips that are probably going to help you out. First off, when you're reloading, ammo is typically discarded. When you're playing Helldivers, make sure you don't sleep on upgrading your ship or anything like that. You can upgrade your ship, get a lot of bonuses and things like that for your stratagems. Now, when it comes to armor, there's stats and then there's bonuses that each armor gives you. Generally, when it comes to armor, light armors are great if you're going on a bigger map where you've got to traverse a big environment. And if you're on a smaller map, you can go with something like a medium armor. And if you're in some sort of an extermination mission, you might even go heavy armor, because it's just going to be able to take more damage, and it really doesn't matter how far you're moving, especially if you set things up correctly. Also, when it comes to going into an actual map, a few things you should always remember is you want something for anti-armor. You want something that can allow you to attack from a range. This would be sort of a airstrike or something like that. And it's also great to have some sort of passive or shield or something like that. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is a shield is extremely OP. You should probably have that on most of your runs. Aside from this, the number one thing that every Helldiver should do when they're striving to bring democracy to the galaxy is just have fun. Honestly, this is one of those games you drop in, play for a bit, and then get out. It's a great game to play. You don't need to grind it. You don't need to take the meta super seriously. Take these few tips, make the game more enjoyable for yourself, and have a good time, because that is what Helldivers 2 is all about. Now, let's keep spreading democracy for many years to come, and if you're interested in helping me spread democracy to the audience at YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe and like. Until next time, peace!